do have a few questions coming in already.
Excellent. Oh, wow. And you're on camera and everything. I'm so impressed.
Yes. So let's answer the first one coming in. Julia has asked, Greg mentioned Slated's EP team supports the highest scoring projects. Can you tell us what that looks like?
That's a great question. Thank you. And I actually think, Mitchell, you may be best suited to answer it. So can I flip it back to you?
Definitely. Yeah, so we support projects on the EP team. One of the key thresholds that we use is the script score. So what that looks like in practice is we're going to be looking at projects that have high script scores, which we define typically as 75 plus. And we'll usually reach out, have calls with those projects to kind of discuss our EP deal and see how we can best fit and help the project. Now, we also do help projects outside of the EP team, and we increasingly kind of go out to projects that might have a few points below 75. But myself, I will go and have calls with these projects to advise on kind of best practices, how to use the platform to best make use of your opportunities and different matchmaking services. Just so you can get the project to that next level. We're always consistently monitoring and analyzing projects to see when the best time for us to step in and help is. So, whether your project is in early development or whether it's going into production or post-production, those are things that we have helped with in the past and will continue to help going forward.
Perfectly answered, Mitchell. For those of you in the room who don't know our team, Mitchell is our EP services manager. So he's often the first person that you're going to hear from when your project scores well. Thank you so much for that answer.
Awesome. Then I think we'll go on to Marissa's question. Marissa asked, can completed films benefit from Slated's EP services?
Absolutely. And I handle a lot of sales and distribution on the team. And I got really excited about completed films because there's so much opportunity for Slated to be helpful here. One of the biggest problems that I think completed films face is it's so hard to make the movie that you spend all of your time trying to just figure that out. And by the time you get to a cut of the film, maybe you don't have a lot of energy left maybe you don't have a lot of money left for marketing and publicity, and maybe you don't have a lot of strategy left for how we're going to release the film, who's going to release it, how we're going to get it to market. Most filmmakers will then just start submitting to film festivals. But that process can take a year to hear back from all the festivals. And if you don't know, then you could end up debuting at certain festivals that maybe aren't helpful for your film. Now you have a release date, the film starts to look old to buyers. So that's where Slated can be really helpful. As soon as you have a completed film, you can reach out to us. We recommend screening analysis, which is like script analysis, except we have 3 members of our team watch the movie. You'll get a screening score and you can match with the distributors and sales agents that we saw a couple slides ago right away. But you can also just chat us up and say, hey, Mitchell, hey, Chelsea, hey, Greg, hey, Jay, I have this film, it's in post, here are the details of it. And we can help you get to the right place. Generally speaking, when Slated works on a film that is completed, we will try to strategize your release. We'll try to send your film to the right sales companies and distributors, depending on what size your film is, and make sure that it's debuting at the right festival and that it's getting offers from multiple distributors at once. Because if you get one offer, in January from a company that you kind of like, and then it takes another 3 months to get your next offer, well, you'll never know if maybe you should have taken that offer. Are they still interested? It's always best to get all of your offers all at once so that the filmmaker can sit back and compare apples to apples and say, okay, which of these deals is best for me? Which one should I choose? What's going to be best for the film? And you can make that decision confidently. So Slated acts as executive producers at that stage too. Did I leave anything out, Mitchell? That was sort of a long-winded answer, but did I kind of hit the right points?
I think you hit it all, Greg.
I have an addition to that.
Yes. This is Jay, our head of film finance's voice.
It's important to mention that we have assembled 285 sales and distribution companies all around the world. We have currently 5 direct North American distribution partners. We have been able to effectively guarantee a US release for any decent feature film. And it just keeps growing and getting faster and faster.
All right. And I think the next question is one that I've seen a couple of iterations on in the chat. So I'm just going to take the top one here. But what genres do you believe will be the most desirable ones for indie films in 2023?
I'm going to pause for Jay.
So we're living in uncertain economic times. Anytime the independent film world is in uncertain economic times in terms of the macro backdrop, it always reverts to 4 tried and true genres above all others. And those are action, horror, thriller, and family.
Very clear answer. Action, horror, thriller, family. I think we can probably move on.
All right. Then the next question comes from Felix. And Felix asks, how do you make a scoring system that highlights new stories and voices and not just the same old thing that was successful in the past?
Mitchell, do you want to take part of that?
Well, I think that part of the advantage of how we use script analysis is that it's a blinded process. And that means that our reviewers have no insight into who the submitter is. They don't have any insight into who's attached with the project. So they're going to be looking at projects that are, just about ready to go into production with the biggest stars possible. They're going to be evaluating that the same way as projects that are being submitted in the early development stage, where there's no one attached to the project or only a very few people. And part of the thing with that as well is that because we go in through this blinded process, everybody is evaluated in the same way. It removes as many biases as possible. And we try to focus just on story mechanics, which really helps to hone the analysis and set everything on a more equal playing field than I think some may be accustomed to when they're submitting for kind of generic script coverage services. But Greg, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
No, the process of removing the cover page and putting all filmmakers on equal footing is really a huge part of it. The only other thing I would add for Felix's question is our team, is our incredible team of which you were once a part, Mitchell, reading scripts. We have this 3-reader process that we've mentioned. And what that means is that you're getting a little bit of a mini polling on your project from people with different backgrounds, different life experiences. And our staff is just absolutely phenomenal. They are working writers, they are former agents, they are former executives. They're also, they tend to skew a bit young. So we have members of our script analyst team that are incredibly impressive, really bright, but they also have their finger on the pulse, I think, of, what's exciting and fresh and original for tomorrow's films, not just, what was cool 20 years ago. So I think across our whole team, we have quite a blend of different tastes, different backgrounds and life experiences. And so when you get 3 different reads on your script, the chances of having one of those people recommend your script is much higher with Slated than probably with other services, because you're getting exposed to a pretty diverse group of people that are reviewing the material. So yeah, some of the films that we discovered at the script stage are bizarre sometimes, but that's a good thing. We would rather the stuff that qualifies be a little bit, peripheral, a little strange, a little challenging, because when it comes to independent film, we've learned that's where it's at. If you don't have something interesting to say, then you're not going to break through the noise of the 4,000, 10,000 movies that are, trying to get made or getting made every year. So yeah, absolutely. We definitely put a premium on rewarding films that take risks. And Mitchell, you're probably about to queue up another question, but I see a question that might be great for Chelsea if Chelsea happens to be in the room and able to take herself off of mute. And that, Chelsea, to give you a heads up, and we can come back to you if you're not quite ready. But that question is the one about investors. Anonymous attendee asks, does Slated help indie producers find private equity investors for movies. How does that work? How much does Slated charge for that? I don't know, Chelsea, if you're available to answer that, but I'll give you a few seconds. And then if not, we can move on to the next question while you get settled.
Yeah, I'm here.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think that it's hard to make super generalized statements about our investors as a group because they're a very large group and are all different. But the short answer is yes, we can definitely help you look for equity investors. I think that oftentimes that's the most difficult financing to secure. But we also characterize many different sort of types of people and companies as investors. So the group is diversified and comprised of, anything from institutional investors and debt lenders to production companies and companies that provide services to just wealthy individuals who are looking to sort of participate in the arts. And they all sort of participate differently and all have their own reasons for wanting to do it. But I think that the most important thing to remember is that the vast majority of them do this professionally and look at film investing as a business. And they're sort of very aware of how films are put together and are selective about which films they'll engage with, and do so very carefully because they're ultimately looking to make their money back. They're investors. And so practically speaking, this means that a lot of what Slated's EP team does when we are developing projects is to educate filmmakers on sort of how to put together packages that make sense, both creatively and financially. Like we're constantly asking, like, where you're shooting, is there a tax incentive? We're constantly challenging whether a particular cast justifies a budget. And I think that beyond our initial mandates of each project sort of being strong story-wise, our focus often needs to be on the financial viability of a project because, that means that investors will make their money back and can participate in the next one.
Do you have any more to say about what Slated charges and how that cost structure works, or if Jay wants to chime in for that?
I'm happy to chime in. The entire premise of the executive producer service was built around fairness. We always have a focus on not being an obstacle and being an accelerator. So the original deal that we created was modeled on the idea that if we were able to fully finance through introductions a $2 million movie, that Slated's executive producer fee would be $100,000. If we're ultimately half of that film, then we're going to charge half because it's the right thing to do. So we kind of bake that into the thinking rather than, hold the line at $100,000 regardless of the outcome and end up in a negative situation when we have success. As a result, because of our emphasis on being easy to work with, we're working on our third, fourth, and fifth films with different producers and our third, fourth, and fifth films with different investors in the community that we've gotten to know well.
Thank you, Jay. Just to underline a point that Jay made, we're here to support independent films, right? There's not Slated. Nobody's getting rich on any one independent film. So the idea isn't really to, for Slated to overcharge a film. We have to find the amount that makes sense based on any given film, what the particulars are and what that film needs. So as much as we've tried to design a one-size-fits-all solution, really, when a project qualifies, we're going to have a conversation with you about what you're looking for, and then we're going to present deal points to you at that point, and you can choose to engage us or not. And of course, listing on the marketplace has an agreement that you can check out as well, should financing, sales, or distribution or packaging find its way to you via the automated matchmaking.
And I think we can move on to this next question from Katie, although I've seen a couple of other versions of this as well. So Katie asks, does the EP team serve as a lit manager / agent in terms of contacting talent for attachments? To follow up and to kind of embody some of the other questions as well, how do we handle casting directors and do we get involved in that?
Yeah, I can answer sort of the casting side of it. We have a really robust community of casting directors on the platform that anybody is really welcome and able to connect with on a project. they're some of the most engaged individuals that are on the platform, and oftentimes are the ones that read sort of the fastest of anyone I've ever seen. So they're really sort of motivated to engage on projects. And so on the platform, that's something that you're able to do. If you have a high script score, they're always eager to read. As far as the EP team goes, we have a group of about 50 that we know and like. And if we're working on a project directly, these are people that we know are working in the indie space. So that's to say they sort of understand that your movie is not coming in financed. They know how to have those conversations with agents. And they sort of know which actors are open to working on indie films in general. You know, there's a lot of actors that are sort of looking for very large paychecks and aren't interested in working on independent films. They want a sure thing. They want pay or play offers. And it's sort of a waste of time trying to go out to them. So the casting directors that we work with sort of understand what we are trying to do and how we're going about doing it. So it's really useful to work with these particular people who kind of are champions of independent film, want to work on them, and know which actors are willing to do so.
If I can dish the next question, Mitchell, to Chandler. Chandler, if you're available, we have a question that asks, how do you get your script into Slated's rotation? And I think Chandler's probably best suited to answer this as our development coordinator. Chandler handles basically all the submissions that come in. She makes sure that they get to the right readers and that they get properly reviewed. Chandler, are you available to take yourself off of mute and speak on that process a little bit?
Yes, I am. I think you and Mitchell already spoke on it a bit earlier, but getting your script into Slated's rotation starts with submitting for script analysis. And then once you do that, your script gets sent out to our reader team. And then I know Greg and Mitchell already touched on this, but what makes it really unique is that we have 3 readers on each of the projects. So you're getting 3 different perspectives from people who have tons of combined experience. And you're getting about 10 pages of really specific feedback on your projects and the combined script scores. So the scripts get evaluated on 11 different categories. And then the scores that you get back kind of give you a good gauge of where you're at with your project. And then if its score is high, then it gets on the EP team's radar. I don't know if there's anything further you want me to talk about it. It's a full process, but
yeah, that's perfectly said. I mean, the truth is, it's really just that simple. You can submit just like Chandler's talking about. For those of you who haven't gone through the process, the price is $395 for script analysis. You can list on Slated without script analysis. We've even seen films match with investors and producers before they have a script score. But the process that Chandler just described is really the single best way currently to get traction on the platform, is just to have your material reviewed. Because as Chelsea indicated earlier, investors they're looking for vetted material, right? If they have $100,000 or $200,000 to put into a movie, then the world is their oyster. They have everybody they ever met is sending them a script, right? So the best thing that you can do as filmmakers is get your material vetted, get it above a 75 script score. Everything's private and confidential unless you want to share it. So if you get a 69, you're like a couple points away from where you want to be. You can keep that private and hidden. You can submit a new draft, and you can only share the highest script score when you're ready. And that's the best way to, get on our radar, but also get on the radar of the investor community that Chelsea was characterizing earlier. So yeah, thank you so much for that answer, Chandler. It's really just that simple. You can submit. And I'll say one more thing, actually. For the $395, as we've already indicated, that's 3 reads. So yeah, it's not a $25 script read from scriptcoveragebrothers.com, but you're getting 18 hours from 3 people who are, writers on TV shows that are on the air right now, former agents, former executives, working directors. These are people who can really give you incredible advice. Some of them have read over I don't know, like over 2,000 scripts just with us alone. They discovered Sound of Metal 5 years in advance of the script stage. So these are really, I would say, the best advice you can get for $395.
This is from a couple different people asking what our view is on the ideal budget of indie films when it comes to finding a place on the market, and what types of budgets, what kind of ranges of budgets do we work on?
In terms of the range that the executive producer team has worked on, we've worked on everything from $100,000 to $20 million in terms of budget. In terms of the ideal budget, currently we like the $1 million movie again. We had exited the smaller films for a while there was a bit of a race to the bottom in terms of the 18-month streaming license price. But what we found is that with the rapid growth of FAST and AVOD services, which are the fastest growing part of sales and distribution in North America, that in the long term, which is how we always talk to the investors about film investment, that there's actually an upward trajectory for baseline values. What happened with the music business was that the overall music business at one point was cut in half. Unfortunately, the film business never experienced that. But over a period of years, the streaming model solidified, the licensing model solidified in that world, and the business surpassed its prior record revenues. So what we're seeing is hopefully in the long term, FAST and AVOD revenues replacing DVD revenues, which would give us a growth market in independent films and make film finance a bit more predictable again as those numbers rise.
Amazing. Thank you, Jay. And we got a great question, I think, and you'd probably like to take about the competition out there. What's that like? And, how do you see the pitch of working with Slated versus other companies, if there are any others that offer this?
Hi, guys. Nice to meet everyone. So that is a really great question. We've been in the business for the last 10 plus years now. We're always keeping our eyes out for our direct competitors, nearest competitors. So far, in terms of direct competitors, there are few, if any. I'm saying this because we are a multifaceted marketplace. So we cater to filmmakers, we cater to investors, and we cater to sales and distro. A lot of the marketplaces out there right now are focused on certain aspects of the filmmaking process. I can mention a few like Stage 32, Mandy Network. They're in the service of shoring up cast and crew, right? And not necessarily focused on the filmmaking process. And other competitors like The Blacklist and Coverfly, they are in the service of helping writers write really good scripts, potentially introduce them to agents, managers, or other filmmakers who are looking for writers, but again, not in the business of making movies. And there are other smaller companies that are, slowly trying to branch out and do experimental, exploratory work on creative ways to finance films, and none of them have actually panned out. Maybe they've announced one project, some splashy project in the trades, but beyond that, there's no repeatable, successful model that they've been able to prove to the industry. And so I think that's how Slated is different from the rest. If you guys are focused on making a movie, trying to be successful, trying to make sure from the script stage to the release stage, sales and distro, that you are doing the right thing, and you want a partner who is there to help you along the way and shepherd you to success, I think Slated is the perfect platform for you. We've spent a lot of time trying to make sure that we've armed the filmmakers, independent filmmakers, with the tools that are competitive to studios. So the script analysis has been fine-tuned over the years. We know now with data that it is predictive of the success of your movie once it gets released. We also have spent years trying to build relationships with sales and distro, with independent producers and other key team members who would help shore up your team to make it as successful as possible. So that's my spiel on our competitors. There are some out there, but again, they only cater to certain aspects of the filmmaking process, but not getting your dream onto the screen, which is our main focus. That's it for me.
Thank you, Anne. That was an amazing answer. Very comprehensive. If anybody has any follow-up questions for Anne, please go ahead and type them in the chat. But we have a few more questions. I mean, look, we're coming up on the turn of the hour here, but we still have a pretty packed room. So I think that we can probably knock out a few more questions. Mitchell, if you see a few that we should dive into.
Yeah, so a couple of people have been asking variations of confidentiality, and just if we can kind of elaborate on that. How do you protect the IP when there's submission, either listing on the film page or submitting their script to us for analysis?
Yeah, so there's a multi-pronged answer to that question, and privacy is something that I'm kind of a maniac about too. I am one of those people that emails websites, privacy email addresses, and goes, remove my name from your list, and I spend like a half hour doing it. So I totally get it, and of course, if you spent years writing a script, you want to make sure that it gets in the right hands and not the wrong hands. So I totally understand where that's coming from. There's a few different things to keep in mind when it comes to Slated. Number one, when you list your film, it's a private listing. You have a private dashboard. Nobody else can see it. So the permissions, the visibility permissions are really you're in charge of them, and we've built them to be very granular. So you can make your film page visible to nobody. You can make it visible to everybody. You can make it visible to investors only with a certain score, or directors only with a certain score. You can be extremely granular. And every time you change your permission settings, you can see exactly how many people are going to be able to see your film. So if you make it visible to everybody on Slated, or if you make it publicly visible, then yeah, the entire Slated community can see it. But most filmmakers choose to say, okay, I'm going to make my film page visible to this set of the Slated community, and I only want my script score to be visible to investors with the score above X, or producers with the score above X. And then you'll see automatically, oh, there's 54 producers on Slated right now who have set their preferences to match with projects like mine and can see my script score. You can choose whether or not to share your full script analysis with the reader comments if they're rave reviews, or you can just share your script score. If you get a script score you don't like, you can also just hide it and wait until you have a script score that's higher. So in terms of the visibility of it, we protect you, but we just put you in charge of who you're sharing what with. In terms of submitting the script for review, our entire reader team is under NDA for the stuff that they read. We have been doing this for a long time, I think over 10 years on the reader side, and we've never had a single issue, knock on wood, thank goodness, that our team is just super conscientious. They're not like freelancers that we just met, right? They're people who are professionals in the business, who have worked, in many cases with us for 8 or 10 years themselves. They're here to help you. They're here to support you. And because they're also creatives, they understand the value of being protective of the work. And of course, like I mentioned, we're all also under contract. The material that we get, it comes from studios, from major financiers, and from independent filmmakers, and they never know what the source of that material is. So I feel, if we've been able to protect the IP of major studios, multi-million-dollar budgets, if they felt comfortable sending their work to us to be reviewed by our reader team, hopefully our independent filmmaker community feels the same level of confidence and comfort in the work that we do. But the last thing that I'll say is this: you got to share your script. There's no way around it. the only way to get a film made is to share your script. And the best protection against anybody stealing your ideas, which is often a concern that, writers maybe at the earlier stages of their career have, because they have this idea, they really want to be protective of it. The best way you can protect your idea is to write the best possible screenplay for it. Because if they want to steal your idea, they still have to go write a screenplay. You guys know how hard that is. It takes years. They're not, I think there's some fear that like, well, if somebody who's a better writer than me gets my idea, they can write a better version of the script. That's why you should share your script. Because if your script is killer, when you send it out, you should really send it out so that you can spread the net wide. People know exactly how good it is. And you're out ahead in the races of being the person that wrote that idea. So honestly, writing the best script you possibly can and actually sharing it is your best protection against somebody taking your idea for their own use. Other than that, there are no, real legal protections in this business. You can kind of copyright it by mailing it to yourself. You can get a WGA registration number, but those things are, if we look over the history of screenplays over the past several years, that's not as good a protection as writing a great script and actually sharing it. That's my really long-winded answer. Oh my God. Thank you for bearing with me, Mitchell. Do you have another one on the board that is we should dive into next?
All right. Well, I think then if there's no other questions that the rest of the team has selected, one of our final questions I think that we can go through is from Rosie, who asked, how many scripts do we read through the submission process a year and a month? And to expand on that, I guess, how many projects do we typically see go through our services, and how many do we have in release and in production?
Wow, that's a good question and a good second parter. For the script review process, it really varies. We're getting up close to 100 submissions per month. We're not quite there yet, but we do 3 reads on every submission, remember. So that's 3 times the amount of work just to make sure that every project is getting a fair look and getting 3 different shots at getting a recommend. So, I think if you compare us with similar services, we're really focused on quality. We're not trying to be a coverage factory. And our $395 price point does put us at a certain place where I think we're more like a film festival. People they plan, they make sure the script is in order before they submit to us. We've also had filmmakers, by the way, who've used script analysis for 20 different drafts of the same project and increased their score dramatically over that time. So everybody uses it a bit differently, but yeah, we are approaching 100 scripts, 100 projects submitted for script analysis and financial analysis per month. And we really want to, as we scale up, we want to make sure that we're still, giving our A++ level quality in the reads and the feedback that we deliver to filmmakers, because that I think is what really sets us apart from other coverage services that may write a paragraph, with an opinion, but not much that you can really work off of. Our analysis has, as Chandler indicated, 11 paragraphs from each reader, page citations in each section. They make really smart points about not just what they liked or didn't like, but the story mechanics, how your conflict could be stronger, what they were, what sections maybe lagged in pace. This is really invaluable stuff. And I think it's the reason why we do see script scores tend to increase over time when filmmakers submit more than one draft. And then Mitchell, you asked what the stages of the films are we're working on.
Yeah, I actually want to jump in here real quick. So a couple other things. Someone had asked about foreign language projects. We've had success with foreign language films. We're a global platform. One of the first movies we ever worked on for sales and distribution was actually a small Mongolian movie about a boy and his horse. So we're truly supportive of diverse voices from all around the world. If a project is to get its script analyzed, we do need an English language translation so that the readers can apply their skill set to something that's in the most common native language of our reader base. But we're certainly very supportive of international film production, and we're looking forward to having multiple movies produced outside the U.S. this year for the first time. And I just want to make sure I highlighted that. In terms of what was the original question, Greg? I think I forgot.
What projects we what different stages, like how many projects are at different stages on our EP slate. Is that right, Mitchell?
Yes.
We're typically running about 150 projects through the development and production and post-production process. We don't see that as a super high number because ultimately we're about to work on our 50th film, and the rate of production and sales distribution is accelerating exponentially right now. So we're seeing a lot more films that are getting made, and a lot more movies that are getting released, or at least right now they're getting put on the release calendar for later in the year. And so we are able to genuinely examine the projects that are coming in that score well. One other thing I want to mention about script analysis is that because it's a double-blind methodology, and it focuses on exclusively the fundamentals of drama, we are always saying, that we're really able to find great material from people who maybe aren't coming through traditional channels. So you don't have to have the world's greatest literary agent to submit. If the material is good, we're likely to find it.
Thank you so much, Jay. I think that we covered a lot today. We went over the expected time, and I really appreciate everybody's questions. These were really amazing questions. We had some sort of backup questions in case, but we didn't need them because you guys had such amazing, smart questions. So thank you so much for engaging in that discussion. Unless there's anything else from the rest of our team, I think I'll just go ahead and leave it there. Again, I really appreciate everybody joining. If you haven't already joined Slated as a member, if you do one thing today, do that. It's free. It only takes a minute to sign up, and then we will be in service to you. We're a pretty small team, as you can see here, with 6 full-time employees, but we are at the service of independent filmmakers. We exist to help great independent films get made. And the next greatest way that you can support the work that we do, of course, is on our WeFunder campaign. If you haven't already seen it, you can see a lot about the offering that we have on wefunder.com/slated. We have a pitch video there that provides a quick 3-minute overview. We have some testimonials. We have some updates from Sundance and from other markets over the past several months. So definitely check out wefunder.com/slated. The minimum investment, I think, is very approachable. And we really want as many independent filmmakers to be owners in the company as possible. Your capital is going to help us do what we do best, which is support the independent filmmaker community and help filmmakers get their movies made. I won't go into any more detail than that, but we have other things that are really exciting, features and tools that are planned for the platform to help turbocharge your process if we raise above a certain amount. So if you're at all interested, please consider participating. You can see all the terms, the disclosures, the disclaimers, all the numbers are available again on wefunder.com/slated. And that brings today's webinar to a close. Again, I really want to thank everybody for joining and participating. Your participation was incredibly helpful. For anyone's questions who we didn't get to, we will see you on the site. Please join and please hit us up in the intercom chat, and we will help you from there. Until then, we wish everybody a wonderful week and best of luck on your projects. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.